And we're getting short on time, so I'm gonna ask
Sure.
this one last question because it is another one that comes up a lot and can be construed as a sort of a jerky behavior.
Uh-huh.
And if done incorrectly, how often should a parent communicate with their child during the other parent's time, and why?
Yeah. Well, I feel that, so I'm going to kind of answer this in two parts. I feel that the child should have independence with regard to speaking to his or other parents
Right.
during the other parent's time. You know, putting it back in the context of, you know, what if we were two people living happily ever after, you know, with a white picket fence in front of our house, in the same house? Would you restrict how often your child communicates with the other parent? No, of course not, right?
Right.
So the goal there is to give the child the sense that, you know, while divorce is not optimal, it's still a normal way to live. So I can communicate with mom if I'm at dad's, or I can communicate with dad if I'm at mom's.
Right.
And I'm going to issue a little bit of a caveat to that. But I think that kids need to feel that they have access to their other parent whenever they need them. That being said, and here's the caveat to that, it can get out of hand. In other words, the child can be calling all the time, trying to have the parent that they're not, you know, with, solve their problems with the parent that they are with.
Right.
And that's where, you know, boundaries would need to be set, preferably by the parent who's getting called. In other words, if Johnny called mommy because daddy didn't butter his bread right, and then the next time Johnny calls mommy, it's because daddy said bedtime is at X o'clock, and then the next time it's because daddy didn't tuck Johnny in properly, right? So those are all problems that the child really needs to be in charge of. And so in that case, the parent who's being called would need to say, you know what, I'm so glad to be able to talk to you. Now we're not going to, you know, I'm not going to talk to you until tomorrow, and then give the child some tools to deal with whatever the issue is. Because if that kind of behavior, that kind of extreme behavior continues, then the child can get the impression that they can't resolve their own issues with the parent that they're with, and that's not going to lead to a feeling of safety.
Right.
So then the second part to this question is really the answer to what I think the question was about, which is how often should a parent communicate with their child? So I feel differently about parents calling their kids. I think that it should be minimal, that the parent shouldn't call their kids during the other parent's time unless there's really something that needs to be resolved. Like let's say they got, you know, a new schedule for the soccer practice or whatever, and so, you know, so they're gonna call their child to talk about that. But I think it should be minimal because in most cases, if a parent is calling their child when their child's with the other parent, it's mostly feeding the parent's need, not necessarily the child's need.
Right. It's about them, not the child.
Precisely, and I think it sends the same message as I was talking about before, which is that you're not actually safe with mom or dad. When you're not actually safe when you're not with me. So I have to call and check in all the time. And I know it's hard. Look, you know, to not have your child, whom you adore, with you 24/7 is painful. It's painful, and it's a product of the divorce, and it's, you know, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. And it's still in the child's best interests to figure out ways to handle that pain separate from, you know, making contact with the child in order to ease the pain.
Right. And that is so true. And I know I get a lot, well, I have to make sure that Johnny did their homework.
Oh, and I get that too. And it's like, no, actually you don't.
Right.
Either the other parent has to figure that out, or Johnny and the school have to figure that out.
Right.
But that's not, if your child's not with you, that's not your job in that moment.
Right. And it's important for them to get that continuity of time with the other parent, where they build that relationship, because that's going to be, the relationship that we have with our parents is huge in determining so many aspects of our lives as we become adults.
Yes.
And so, really giving them the tools to build that relationship is just setting them up for success. So if your real concern is whether or not they're going to be successful adults, the best way to equip them to do that is to give them the tools to build those relationships themselves.
Absolutely. No question. Yes.
Well, Julie, it has been a pleasure talking with you today.
It's been a pleasure for me, too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so for anybody listening, if you want more information about the book, Joint Custody with a Jerk, it has its own Facebook page. So you can just search Joint Custody with a Jerk, the book, and it will come up for you. And if you would like more information about Julie or her work with Parenting Horizons, you can visit the Parenting Horizons website at www.parentinghorizons.com. Thank you, and have a good day.